What's up, Crown Crew? Welcome to Crowned Athletics. I'm Kirsten, your fitness princess, and today we're talking all about how I became an officially certified mermaid. Scuba diver. I just recently got my open water scuba certification and it was a complete dream come true. I've been wanting to do this ever since I was a little girl. My parents scuba dived for years when they first met. They heard so many amazing stories. And then when I first went to Epcot and saw that you could scuba dive in the tank, I just knew I had to do that. I know this is a little bit different for this channel, but when I posted about it on Instagram, also make sure you go follow Crowned Athletics on Instagram. I got a lot of requests about my experience, so I thought I would share it with you. Before we get started, if you want to continue to learn more different forms of exercise or how to become an official mermaid, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Now let's get diving. Okay, the first thing you should definitely make sure to do if you're interested in getting scuba certified is to plan very far in advance. You're probably doing this because you're gonna go on a tropical vacation or something and you want to scuba dive there. So make sure you give yourself a lot of time before that vacation to get certified. There are a couple different steps involved, and in case anything comes up that you have to miss a step, or maybe there's bad weather and you have to miss one of your certifying dives, you don't want to be stressed before your trip. Spoiler alert, that happened to me. It ended up working out even better than I had planned for, which I'm going to get into, but still you would rather not have to worry about that before your awesome vacation. I would give yourself more than a few months. I would probably start 6 months out just to be completely safe. So I'm not an instructor. I'm not fully versed on this. This is all just my experience and my general knowledge that I've gotten from going through this certification process. As far as I know, there are 3 different kinds of certification: NAUI, PADI, and SSI. They are all recognized around the world, and whichever certification you have, you will be able to dive anywhere with it. But PADI is the most well-renowned and well-known certification there is. So because PADI is the most well-known, it will become relevant in my tips coming up. So for all of the certifications, there are 2 phases of the certification. There is your book and pool work, where you do your reading, you'll take a test, and the pool, you get to try on all the equipment and learn how to use it and breathe underwater for the first time. And then after you complete all of that, you have your second phase, which are your open water certification dives, where you dive in the ocean or the lake or wherever your dive shop plans these. So with the 2 phases that you have with the book and pool and the open water, you can do them all under one dive shop, or you can split them and do your pool and book work at your one dive shop, maybe your local dive shop, and then when you go on vacation, you could go to another dive shop and you can just do your dives. And those are called referral dives. So you would talk to your first dive shop, get your paperwork saying that yes, I completed my pool and book work, I took the test, I passed, and now I just need to do the open water dives. You take that paperwork to them and then they'll sign you up from there and then continue to get you certified. So I actually ended up starting off with the NowI certification. I had gone on Yelp and looked for a dive shop, found a really good one that I liked, and signed up with them. I was kind of unfamiliar with the different kinds of certifications and then found myself in NAUI, which was fine. So I passed my test and then I had to schedule my open water dives. You have to do 4 dives total, but it's really 2 days of diving. So you do 2 dives per day. Here in Southern California, my dive shop did beach dives, where you walk in off of the beach. I was pretty intimidated by this because you have a lot of waves, the visibility is really low. Also, Southern California water is very, very cold. I was supposed to do these dives 2 weeks before our vacation. Unfortunately, what ended up happening was the weather was really bad. You're not supposed to dive in really bad weather, or if it rains, there can be a lot of runoff from the streets and the oil and stuff. You don't want to dive a couple days after a really bad rain. So then I started freaking out because I wasn't going to get my certification before we went to Hawaii. So this is when I took to Google and I found out that you can do the referral dives. The thing with this is, though, you want to do the same certification that you started with. So I started with NAUI, so I needed to find a dive dive shop that offered NowI certification. Because this one isn't as widely known and as widely used as PADI, it was very hard for me to find a shop that offered NowI certification. I did end up finding one. The problem with NowI is once you finish your certification dives in your referral dive shop, you have to send that paperwork back to your original dive shop, and then they send that off to NowI to issue you your certification, which could take maybe weeks. I don't even know how long that would take. This ended up being important to us because we did our first 2 days of dives to get my certification, and then we wanted to do one more additional dive day where I was fully certified. So therefore, I needed my certification. I talked to my dive shop on vacation about it and about different options, if I could just dive as kind of a student again, or how we would go about getting my certification, because we were going to dive with the same shop. What they ended up doing was transferring my original NAUI paperwork over to PADI and then giving me a PADI certification. So I'm actually PADI certified now, but that allowed me to dive the next day as a certified diver. I got my temporary card printed for me right away and I was certified. So that's kind of the complicated way that I went about getting certified. I hope that it won't be as confusing for you. It didn't end up being as difficult as I thought it was going to be, and it really ended up working out because I didn't have to do my cold beach dives in Southern California. I got to do my referral dives in beautiful Hawaii. I highly recommend doing it that way if you don't live somewhere already nice and tropical and warm. Okay, so my full experience. When I signed up, I got a link to an online course and I was told to read a certain amount of chapters before our first day. Then on our first day, we arrived at the pool. We learned about our tanks and about our regulators and our BCs. We did a swim test where we had to swim the length of the pool 9 times to make sure that we were good swimmers. And then we put our equipment on. We stayed just in the shallow end, so we only went underwater by about a foot or 2. And then we learned about how to recover our regulator if it was out of our mouth. We also learned how to clear our mask if it was full of water or if it came completely off of our heads. It was pretty simple, pretty easy, only took a couple hours. Then we showered off and then went back to the dive shop where we went over the reading as a group and made sure we understood everything. So then we did basically the same thing again the next week. We finished all of our reading from the online course. Then again, went to the pool first. This time we did a treading water test where we tread water for, I think it was 20 minutes. And you could lie on your back and float or anything. You didn't have to be treading water the whole time, but they just wanted to make sure that you were able to keep yourself afloat for a long period of time if need be. Then we put all of our gear on and then we learned how to jump off of the edge of the pool into the water. This time we got to wear our fins, and so we were much further underwater. We got to swim around more, and this one was much more fun. Then again, we showered off, went back to the dive shop and went over all of our reading. From there, we were sent a link to be able to take the full test. My dive shop required that we got 100% on the test, and we were only allowed to take the test once per day, but we could take it as many times as we wanted. I would highly recommend taking it the day that it becomes available for you to take. You don't want to forget all of the information that you were going over. We got to take notes while we were at the dive shop that I could keep next to me while I was taking the test. So it really wasn't that hard, but I did end up having to take it 3 different times because I had to get 100% on it. If maybe your vacation is a little bit further out from your certification and you think that you can just wait and take it later, I highly recommend not doing that because you don't want to forget it and then have to go back and relearn it. So now you've gone through all of the pool and the bookwork, you've passed your test, and now you're preparing for your open water. If you're a little bit nervous about this, you can practice some of your skills in a pool if you have access to one. You can work on filling up your mask and then clearing it. You can work on removing your mask and putting it back on, and just getting more comfortable with the mask tests. I didn't end up doing this. I kind of wish I had, just because when you do get into the open water and there's lots of surge and stuff happening, you can be a little bit overwhelmed. I wish I was just a little bit more comfortable for when I was in that open water situation. When you're doing the dives in the open water, your instructor will basically have you do all the skills that you learned in the pool in front of him so that he can ensure you're doing them correctly and that you're safe to dive on your own. So when you get to your open water, they're going to have you do all of your equipment yourself. You're going to put the regulator onto your tank, set everything up, get it all strapped into your BC, test for all of your levels and everything. You're going to learn all this during your certification. but they just have you go through it so that you fully understand how all of your equipment works and that it's working properly. You basically have like 3 or 4 skills to do per dive, and you have your 4 total dives. I did mine on back-to-back days, which was really nice to just kind of get it out of the way. Our first day, there were like 15 students on the boat, and we were each divided up into groups, so there were about 3 or 4 of us per instructor, and they'll come and talk to just your group only and walk you through each skill that you're going to do per dive. So they don't overload you with information. They just tell you, okay, these are the 3 skills we're going to do on this dive. Is everyone ready to go? This is how you're going to perform it. These are the hand signals I'm going to give you. So you fully understand, because once you go underwater, you can't talk to anyone or hear them. So you just kind of need to know what you're going to do, but it's really simple. So you do your first dive. It lasts about 30 minutes. We went to about 35 feet. I think they stay within 30 to 40 feet for your open water certification dives. Once you have your certification, you are allowed to go to about 60 feet. And if that makes you nervous at all, once you're in there, you really don't realize how deep you are, because you don't often look up. You're kind of just looking down at the reef. So you really don't know that you're 30 feet below water. It's actually nicer to be lower, because the higher you get, the more you feel the waves of the water above. It's much calmer the closer you get to the bottom. So we did our skills. We basically just kneeled down on the sand, and he would come over to each of us and have us do each skill that we needed to perform. And then after that, we just got to dive around, and he would show us all the different marine life. We were allowed to bring our GoPros if we wanted. You basically just need to have your hands clear in order to do the skills. I didn't do it on my first dive because I was nervous with having too many things in my hands, but then my second, third, and fourth dive, I brought it along with me. Overall, everything was super simple and super fun and exciting to just be underwater, breathing underwater like a mermaid. I did, however, on my 4th dive of the certification, have a little bit of a freak out. This is really common to divers. Even my dad has had a freak out when he's done over 100 dives. Something is just mentally bugging you a little bit, and you don't feel totally comfortable. And of course, you just want to breathe like normal air, right? In my case, the surge was pretty bad at the bottom. We were blowing back and forth a lot. It was kind of like we were swimming in a storm. Nothing unsafe at all, but when you're trying to perform your skills, it made me a little bit uneasy. When I was diving after that, I was totally fine. But we were doing a lot of like taking our regulator out and blowing up our BC, and it was a lot of switching where I didn't just have my regulator in my mouth the whole time, and then we're blowing, and it just felt like a lot of stuff going on. So I did start to freak out a little bit, and I just wanted to get up to the top. But from my practices in meditation and yoga, I really just tried to tap into myself and breathe slowly and deeply, and to just try and be as calm as possible. My instructor was right next to me. The group was near me. I wasn't alone. I was only 30 feet underwater. Realistically, you could swim up to the top without any air if need be. So I wasn't unsafe. So I was just trying to remember all of those things and just enjoy the environment and just breathe as normally as possible. So within a few minutes, I had fully calmed myself down and I was fine. So I highly recommend just kind of being aware of that could happen to you. And of course, if you really are feeling uneasy, tell your instructor and they will help you back up to the top at a safe speed. And please do not hold your breath if you're feeling nervous. The number one rule in scuba diving is don't hold your breath. They are going to tell you this a million times, but just make sure you're breathing nice and deep and slow and calmly, and you will come out of it, I promise. Otherwise, I feel like it was a super simple process. They walk you through everything. They're so good about all of the rules. They're really setting you up to be able to dive on your own without an instructor there. It's all for your safety so that you can really enjoy diving. It's so relaxing to be down there with all of the marine life and to just see a new and different world. We got to see so many cool things, like different fish I had never seen before. We got to see a turtle under a rock that was just like hanging out. And then I'm so glad we added on an additional day of diving once I was fully certified. It was really nice to just be able to dive without having to do all of my skills and kind of have a lot on my mind. I was able to just relax and enjoy the environment. And on that day, we got to see 2 sharks, which was the highlight of the trip. And if you're scared about sharks, please don't be. I always loved snorkeling, but I felt a little bit like shark bait, kind of like floating at the top as this dark seal-like silhouette. So I always thought that scuba diving would hopefully give me a more relaxed feeling because you're down with them underneath the water. You also look like this kind of weird astronaut blowing a ton of bubbles. You have a big tank on you. No one is going to attack you if you're just swimming down there minding your own business. I don't think there's ever been any scuba dive attack that wasn't provoked. So I mean, don't go out bothering the sharks, but if you just kind of observe at a safe distance, they don't want to mess with you. It was so cool to just see them swim by. I freaked out a little bit because I was like excited. And I was like trying to point. I was like, look, it's the shark. There's really nothing to be scared of down there. It's beautiful and it's kind of like you're floating in space. It's amazing. The most amazing feeling. Hello from vacation, Kirsten. I'm actually on another scuba diving trip, so how fitting. I just wanted to wrap up this video. I hope it made some sense. I know there was a lot of information everywhere with kind of the unconventional way that I got certified. If you have any very specific questions about the process that I went through, please leave them down in the comments below. And now that I'm on another dive trip already, definitely be on the lookout for another video. I also wanted to mention another amazing use for Crowned Athletics headbands that I discovered. They work so well to keep the hair at your hairline from getting into your mask. They are super sweat wicking and fast drying. Wasn't dripping water down my face after I got out of the ocean and dried really fast. So definitely check out crownedathletics.com for your scuba diving headband. Also, I actually used a Crowned Athletics tank top as kind of a rash guard, tankini type thing when I went snorkeling. That worked really well again because super slim fitting and fast drying, and another great use for Crowned Athletics products. If you like this video and you want to learn more about my scuba diving adventures, please give it a big thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching. I am so very grateful. Make sure you subscribe and always wear your crown with pride. Bye!